Hey, what's going on guys? It's Carmine here, as always, and welcome to my episode 10 Q&A. Sorry this video is so late, but I've been super busy with my summer vacation, and I wanted to make sure this video was the biggest Q&A I've ever done, so we can get some things out of the way before my final season review. I'll be answering some questions about the season as a whole, and stay tuned towards the end of my video for some long-awaited answers to questions about my channel many of you have been wondering. Now with that out of the way, let's get to it. First question, where will Melisandre go next? I think it'd be interesting if the showrunners teamed her up with Cersei or Euron Greyjoy. Thoros of Myr was originally sent to turn Robert Baratheon into a believer in the Lord of Light, but he fell victim to the lifestyle of drinking and whores. Ain't that the dream? But I don't think Melisandre will be easily swayed like Thoros, but the reason I say she may team up with Cersei is probably because it's safe to say Cersei will be open to any religion that isn't the one she just spent 2 seasons having problems with. The reason I say Euron? Well, it's because I'm hopeful that his brief appearance in Season 6 wasn't just to be used as plot device to make every single female in Westeros team up with Dany. I want Euron to be a credible threat to everyone like he is in the books, but unfortunately the show has made him some jerk with a big mouth instead of the James Bond villain that he is in the books. I think the way we can redeem his character is by teaming him up with Melisandre, because we all know how attracted to kings she is, and I think it'd be interesting to have his type of character in an alliance with her. In the books, one of the Greyjoys comes across a Red Priestess out at sea, so hopefully they can switch it up and make it Euron and Melisandre. Next question, how could Cersei win against the combined forces of Dany's allies and 3 of those dragons? It seems almost unfair in a way that she would take the throne only to lose it the next day. I agree completely. Dany's timing couldn't have been better for everyone in Westeros, but at the same time, it couldn't be worse for Cersei. It does keep within Cersei's theme to have every plan she's ever come up with blow up in her face, though. The only way Cersei could ever win is if, like I said, she teams up with Melisandre and Euron Greyjoy. The dragons aside, her army is next to useless on water, with the Dothraki and Unsullied, who aren't known for their ship-to-ship combat, but the Ironborn are. Dany only has 100 Ironborn ships in her fleet, but Euron will have more than that, so it'll be a tough fight for everyone who isn't used to that kind of warfare. In the books, Cersei put someone in charge of the Royal Navy, and I think if they team her up with Euron, they can still keep that element somewhat and still make it entertaining overall. Melisandre thrown into the mix may be able to shake things up in the magical sense, as she did for Stannis, and it will be interesting to see how she handles dragons and how her powers react to being around them. The Warlocks in Season 2 said that the dragons fuel their magical abilities, so maybe the same is true for Melisandre, who can boost her powers with them in the area. But like I said, Cersei is vastly outnumbered, and I think it wouldn't be as entertaining if she was crowned in the Season 6 finale, and then quickly dethroned before we're able to see anything remotely enjoyable and interesting with her as queen. Next question, where will Dany land first in Westeros? I'm sure some people will say the obvious answer is King's Landing, but I don't think so. I think it would be symbolic for her to land in the Baratheon territory and take Robert's family home of Storm's End. It would be poetic in a way, because Robert killed her brother Rhaegar and took the kingdom from the Targaryens, so she'll take it back and start with his home. Not only that, but Storm's End is closer to King's Landing than any other location on the eastern coast of Westeros, so it's not a bad place to start for her invasion force. Next question, what do you think the Mountain will do to Septon Unella? The obvious answer would be to physically torture and rape her, but I'm thinking that the showrunners may get a little creative with it. Reddit user Hothothors believes that Cersei has devised a specific method of torture for Unella that parallels each of the Faith's 7 aspects in order to make sure Unella feels like she could never enter the realm of the gods. For example, one of the aspects of the Faith is the Maiden, which represents purity. If the Mountain violates her, then I'm sure she'd believe that she would not be pure anymore. The crone represents foresight and guidance, and to remove that from her would be to blind her. The smith represents craftsmanship, and to remove that from her, the mountain could break her fingers, and so on and so forth. The way Cersei could hone in on the torture can be very creative depending on how the showrunners want to make her character too sadistic or not for the new season. Next question, back in October we got pictures of Shae on the set over in Meereen. Why do you think she wasn't included this season? I posted up the pictures on my Facebook and Twitter page of Shae on set in Meereen with Varys, so go check them out if you're interested. But yes, she is on set, and at one point she's in what looks like a Marinese outfit. I think the reason she was ultimately omitted from this season is probably because her random appearance didn't fit in with what was happening, but I think it does. In the beginning of Season 5, we see Tyrion is still struggling with her death when he is in a whorehouse in Volantis and refuses to have sex with a random woman. Seeing Shae in the faces of some people in Meereen would let the audience know that she still haunts him and just gives him another excuse to drown himself in alcohol. But at the same time, this is one of the shortest seasons we've ever gotten, despite what the HBO official schedule says. Some of these episodes range from 47 to 51 minutes long, so I don't see why they would take scenes and remove them, but I guess they need to save something for the $40 Blu-ray release. Personally, I don't think Thrones should have any deleted scenes, but some of you were happy that she was removed from the season. Let me know your thoughts below though. Next question, do you think Jon will learn about his parentage? I don't think so. I think only the audience will know about his true parents. That way when we see him next season interact with Dany, we can all hope and wonder if they're going to get together or not. Kinda like the medieval version of Ross and Rachel in the first few seasons of Friends. But no, I don't think so, because personally I think there would be no point. Jon believes himself a Northman, and he is, half, but he really doesn't want the attention that would give him if it were to come out that he is half Targaryen. Plus, when Bran saw the vision, do you think he actually knew who that baby was? I would love it if there was like a parody of that scene where it focuses on the baby's face for a moment, and then in the background you can hear Bran saying, wait, who the fuck is that? Please, someone make that happen. But no, I don't think Jon will learn who his parents are, because at this point, it doesn't really matter. But it does lead me to the next question. Can Jon Snow become king if the truth about his parents came out? Yes, but he'd have to fight for it, and that is where I think that if he does find out, he'd keep it to himself. In Westeros, the male line is dominant, so it'd be a problem for Dany overall. When Robert Baratheon defeated the Targaryens, people decided that he should be king because his grandmother was a Targaryen, so he had a much stronger claim than any of the other houses who fought alongside him. Excluding Dany and her brother Viserys, who fled the continent, he was next in line. Jon would have a much stronger claim to the Iron Throne than anybody in the past 18 years, Baratheons included, because he was the next foreseeable heir to the throne. Ned Stark knew this, so he kept it a secret from everybody, and even got mad when Robert talked about killing Dragonspawn in Season 1. Next question, the director of Hard Home, Bastard Bowl, and the finale isn't directing any episodes next season. Does this mean there isn't going to be a big battle in Season 7? Keep in mind, some of the best seasons of Thrones have not featured big war scenes, like Season 1 and Season 3, so maybe we don't exactly need one gigantic climactic fight, but hopefully they do make it worthwhile by giving us a sea battle. It's one of the few things we haven't seen yet done in full, and I'm not counting the Siege of Meereen finale. OP dragons burning people don't count. But ever since Season 4, every year has had armies clashing against each other, delivering some shockers, but it's a strong possibility that next season it may be toned down and focused more on the supernatural and personal conflicts of each character. Also, just because that guy isn't involved doesn't necessarily mean we won't have big battles, but to be honest, after Hard Home, Bastard Bolt, and The Winds of Winter, I kind of want him to direct every single episode from now on. Hopefully he comes back in the final season for the last couple of episodes. Next question, where do you think Arya will go next? This is hard to predict because her storyline moved very quickly this season. She wasn't even a part of the Faceless Men for an actual season. She's been there for less than 10 episodes, and even though the storyline's timeline moves without alerting the audience, she was still an apprentice before deciding to leave. But now that she is back in Westeros, I am curious as to how the show will play out her role for next season. Since we've seen that she can change faces, it would make sense to keep her almost non-existent throughout the whole next season until the finale, where we see her remove the face of an unexpected person and kill an important character. I say to keep her non-existent because it would be kind of a fun guessing game to see which background extra or random person she could be posing as, and it could also be fun if random people around King's Landing who are loyal to Cersei start dying off one by one. But to answer your question, I don't think she'll be returning home just yet, simply because I feel like Arya has changed way too much. But it would be nice to see her reunited with Jon and have her thank him for the sword. But Arya, in my opinion, just isn't destined for a happy ending with her family. Not at least until she gets that revenge she's been wanting against everyone on her list. Also, she wants to go somewhere far, so I'm curious to see where that is. Next question, do you think Jon and Dany will get together in the next season? It's hard for me to throw my support behind that idea simply because that almost sounds like fan fiction. No offense to those who are a fan of this idea, but Jon and Dany both being Targaryens and her technically being his aunt and them getting married sounds a little too good to be true. She and Jon will rule the Seven Kingdoms and they lived happily ever after. The end. I don't think so. It just doesn't sound very Game of Thrones-ish to me. I'm part of the group of people who believe Jon Snow will sacrifice himself in the coming battle against the Walkers, maybe even against the Night's King himself with Bran's help. George Martin has said that the ending will be bittersweet, so maybe a relationship between them will happen, but then it fizzles out and she decides to leave or whatever, but I do see how this has picked up steam. Jon is the king in the north, and Dany will be the queen of the Seven Kingdoms. You could say that their marriage will unify Westeros once again, but I think it's too good to be true, and happy endings like that don't usually happen unless there is blood involved. See Arya's killing of Walder Frey as reference. Next question, do you think the showrunners have responded to criticisms of the show's treatment of women by making almost all of the show's ruling power female? I can see where you're coming from by saying that. Dany is Queen of Dragons, Yara will be in charge, probably, Olenna is in charge of House Tyrell, Ilaria is in charge of Dorne, Cersei is Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. If you're a female in the Season 6 finale, chances are you had a very good day, unless you're a religious nun or in a relationship with Tommen. You had a very good day. But I don't think that the show is leaning towards appealing to feminists. I just think things turned out in a way that benefits certain protagonists who just happen to be female. I mean, Olenna is in charge simply because her family has died. Yara is in charge because Theon doesn't want the title, and Cersei is queen because her son died. What I'm trying to say here is that circumstances surrounding these women in power are very sad, and it does keep within one of the themes of the series: power through hardship and sadness. Many of these women are in those positions because of some terrible event that forced them in that position, and that is just how the story evolved. The one exception is Dorne, and we've all agreed how dumb that was. They could have kept Doran Martell still alive and still had him support the Targaryens, but I won't get into that clusterfuck again. But no, I don't believe the showrunners are appealing to feminism, and one key phrase you've heard before should have given you a clue that things would turn out this way. Vala Mogulis. All men must die, and die they did. Next question, do you think the Valonqar prophecy will be fulfilled by Jaime or Tyrion? I'd love to see Tyrion choke out his sister for all that she's done to him, but in the end, the leading contenders for this are Jaime or Arya. In my Mad Queen Theory video, I state that I believe Jaime will be the one to kill Cersei because it would be very Shakespearean for him to do so. We've seen elements of this in George Martin's work before, so for me, I'm hoping it's Jaime, but Arya is also a contender. Now that she can steal faces, she could try to take a face from someone we all know, who could count as a little brother, and take her out, but my money is still on Jaime. Cersei has used wildfire, and who's to say she won't use it again when Dany's army invades King's Landing? You're probably wondering, why wouldn't Dany just use her dragons? Well, because I believe the people of King's Landing will be used as hostages by Cersei, and she'll burn everyone down with her before she gives up that seat of power. Dany will get a history lesson from Tyrion about what Tywin did during the last days of Robert's Rebellion, and she'll strive to avoid sacking the city with dragonfire. But Cersei will feel cornered nonetheless and attempt to take everyone out with her. Jaime will have to repeat his actions and try to stop her. So for me, Jaime is the best candidate. Next question, who would be next in line now that Tommen is dead? That's a difficult question to answer considering almost everyone who has Baratheon blood is dead. Naturally, the Lords of Westeros would favor a male leader in this scenario, and according to Preston Jacobs, they would look to Robert Baratheon's family line to see who should take over. His mother was an Estermont, so they could look for a new king from that house if there are no male Baratheons. Normally, a great council would form up to decide who should rule, but the way things are now, I doubt that'll happen considering every single house is in open rebellion against the crown. Cersei took the throne through power, and I'm sure she'll take down any contenders to the throne by having them assassinated. The only person who could take the throne and have a legitimate claim, other than Dany, is Gendry, but I doubt he'd put his claim in because, according to an alternate ending, Gendry is currently sailing with Dany. Here he is with his rowing boat next to her ship. Next question, how can Cersei claim the throne if nobody supports her? That's one of the main things I'm curious about as well. Who the hell is supporting her? Considering she just blew up the Sept, there should be riots going on around all over the place, and there's not. One of the main reasons for the High Sparrow's power is that they are the few and he is one of the many. It's what kept a lot of their armies at bay, the complete and utter chaos that the people would unleash into the city should the High Sparrow be killed. You could argue that Jaime came in just in time to bring order to King's Landing, but Cersei's claim here makes absolutely no sense considering that more than half of the continent is against her, and a Lannister army has been severely weakened from fighting for the past 3 years, mainly due to losing against Robb Stark. The Tyrells have been major supporters of the Iron Throne since they arranged marriage, and her taking them out is also stupid considering they control the food coming into King's Landing, and their army was within the cities a while ago. I don't think Mace Tyrell would order his own soldiers to leave the city without him, but no matter how many children Qyburn has at his command, they can't take out armored soldiers. A lot of it wasn't accounted for once you stop to think about it. The only people who would probably support Cersei are the lords who swear loyalty to House Lannister, and those who want power and would probably be swayed to fight for her if she offered them high positions. During Robert's Rebellion, many houses originally didn't side with the rebels because they felt they would be rewarded by the Targaryens for not following the ruling class in those territories. Next question, are you disappointed in the lack of White Walkers this time around? It seems we've only been getting just a taste of them before they go away for the entire season. And that is the way I like it. At the start of the season, I said how I thought the wall would be coming down in the finale, but that is because I thought there would only be one more season left in the show, Season 7, and that is not the case anymore. I like that the walkers are there as a thread in the back of our minds, and that is how it should be. There are other bigger scenarios happening all over, and to have that supernatural force come down on everyone seems a little too chaotic in terms of storytelling, so I like how they're tackling it. Give us a taste of the walkers and how powerful they are, but focus on the threat of other characters in the world. Next question, do you think the High Sparrow was a member of House Reyne who managed to escape Tywin's massacre and waited for the right time to get his revenge? Well, that is interesting. We will never really know, will we? For those of you who don't know, then allow me to explain. House Reyne of Castamere was a house in the Western Lands who were driven to extinction by Tywin because they decided to rebel against the Lannisters. Some believe that many of the Lannisters' enemies are members of this house who managed to escape Tywin's wrath. The High Sparrow briefly explained his background, but at the same time, you could say that he was lying, considering his stories contradict each other, and most of his actions were constant grabs for power. He knew he had to get rid of the ruling class in the city, so he could be at the height of it all, and he successfully got rid of the Tyrell army, Jaime, and even most of Cersei's allies by making her look like an absolute joke. And he also even managed to control the king. The High Sparrow will go down as one of the show's most calculating characters in the King's Landing arena, and it's a shame we'll never find out who he really is. There's a possibility that he's just some random guy who wanted to bring peace through religious ideals, but at the same time, don't you think it would have been awesome to find out that he was out to ruin the Lannisters and their allies for the destruction of his house? It would be an interesting twist, but it's one we'll never know. And finally, which deaths this season was the most disappointing for you? At least half of the characters this season had quick and terrible deaths that weren't satisfying at all and was just plain boring. Roose Bolton was a big shocker to me because I didn't expect him to go down so quickly, especially since he knows Ramsay all too well. It almost makes him look stupid that he would fall for Ramsay's false kindness, but at the same time, I understand why that happened. Blackfish and Rickon's death were really annoying to me, considering Rickon had no dialogue the entire season, and his appearance amounted to nothing. Blackfish dying off screen seems like one of the most random and terrible decisions anybody can make in the television show or movie. Actors and actresses from Thrones always pray that when they die, they go out in an amazing way, with even some of them hoping to be eaten by a dragon, but it's almost borderline disrespectful to the fans of both book and show to have such an interesting character be killed off screen, even more so in the series, which loves to glorify deaths. The reason the director gave for not having the Blackfish die on screen was, and I quote, "I didn't want to see that. I didn't gain anything from it. I wanted him to have that warrior's death, and I was happy to leave that off screen." So basically, you either didn't want to pay the actor extra for sword fighting lessons, or you didn't want to go through the trouble of adding 2 to 3 minute fight scene. Lovely. A warrior's death would have meant more had the Blackfish actually went down like Barristan did, fighting multiple men at the same time and kicking ass until being bombarded with arrows. It would have also added to the scene to have Edmure Standard to witness it. But how can you give someone a warrior's death and give the character a bit of justice by having some random soldier tell Jaime he died off screen? Makes no sense to me. Now, before I end the Q&A, I'll be answering some questions about the channel that some of you have had this season. One question I always get is, what does Baba Booey mean? Baba Booey is the nickname of Howard Stern's show producer, Gary Dell'Abate, who fucked up several years ago when naming a cartoon character that he wanted to collect. Gary thought the crew would forget the nickname, and 20 years later, they still remember it. I'm a fan of the Stern show, or to be more precise, I'm a fan of the Artie Lang years, and Stern lately isn't as entertaining, but he's still fun to listen to. The reason I say it is to call out other Stern fans, but also as a parody on every YouTuber who has their own intro/outro phrase. If you notice, almost every single big YouTuber has their own catchphrase or specific line they use when starting or ending a video to, like take PewDiePie as an example. I didn't want to go through the hassle of creating my own intro/outro phrase, so I just picked that one and we'll continue to go with it. Another question I usually get is, why do I disable comments on my older videos? And the reason for that is because I'd rather focus on newer comments on my newer videos than comments being posted on something I did 2 years ago. It makes it easier for me to respond and keep up with you guys. I'm paying more attention to my newest video's comment section than something I did 2 years ago. And in order for me to be able to, read most of it, this is the solution I came up with. I think most big YouTubers never even read their comment section, and I try to, so doing it like this is easier. And finally, the main question I get is, will I be doing more Thrones or certain type of videos like this? And the answer is yes. I will always try to dish out as much as I can whenever I can, but I also want you to know that I'm 24 years old, and according to my channel statistics, 90% of you who sub to me are over the age of 18, so I'm sure many of you understand the life I have right now in my newly arrived adulthood. It's hectic and I'm busy, usually juggling 2 jobs now that the summer is here, or going on vacation with friends, but don't worry, I have some awesome Thrones videos for you guys with some surprises. Over the past few months, I've collaborated with artists on new videos I'm planning, and I even want to bring on board another YouTuber who I think has a sexy voice, especially for history videos. One of the other YouTubers I've partnered with is Tale Foundry, who had made some beautiful artwork for me in an upcoming video I'm planning, so definitely check out Tale Foundry to get a taste of what I'm cooking up. I'll leave a link in the description below. But guys, thank you so much for watching. I've just begun rewatching Season 6 again for the full season review, which should come out next week. In that video, I won't be reviewing each single episode, but looking at all of the season as a whole, and I'm sure many of you will agree with my criticisms or praises that I give of the show this season. Before I end the video, I need to give a shout out to the Secret Compass Online for the awesome purchase I made on the Game of Thrones replica of the Assassin's Blade. I recently bought the dagger used in Bran Stark's assassination attempt, and I plan to do an unboxing of it, so look forward to that. But if you're a hardcore fan like I am and you want to collect some of these epic items like Bran of Tarth's Oathkeeper sword or Jon Snow's Longclaw, head on over to Secret Compass Online for some amazing prices on these great items. I'll leave a link in the description below. Guys, once again, thank you so much for watching, and as always, show your support and love, and hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all next time. Baba Booey.